And Alexander and I talk a lot about the life and death of aesthetics, and he doesn't believe in aesthetics, and I believe that art is still about chasing beauty and chasing aesthetics. So basically what Monroe Beardsley did is he introduced analytics to art, which was kind of groundbreaking to kind of create this whole new theory of analyzing art. And so with analytics, there's objectivity. So if we use a little Socratic logic, we can say that if there's objectivity in analytics, and analytics can be applied to art, then there must be objectivity that can be applied to art. And that's kind of my goal, is I want to chase the objectively aesthetic in art. And I offered a poll on my Instagram the other day about, does everyone's opinions matter? And it's being an artist, you live in this weird subjective world where you try to find some sort of objectivity or a route to go. And so in my personal craft, I like to create a starting line and a finishing line that I can follow through on. And so intensity, complexity, and unity, it needs to be revisited for the count of saturation that we have in the art market. So if ICU was applied, every advertisement, billboard we see, it would all be a great piece of art, because as humans, we've basically conquered beauty. We know what beauty is, and we know how to define it. So I've taken it and I've revised a new goal, which is a new visual experience. And so this new visual experience, I've broken down into three things, which is language, process, and narrative. And so to replace Beardsley's words with LPN, it's all objectively good art has some amount of language, process, and narrative within it. And so these are two artists, as an example, that have great language and process within their work. Greg Bogan, he's kind of redefining shaped canvas and color field painting, and he's bringing a whole new context to hanging a piece of wall on the art and breaking down the rectangular window that we usually see art through. And then, of course, Gerhard Richter, he's a famous German painter, and he's invented a whole new language of paint with using the squeegees, and his process of these custom-made squeegees that are 6 feet tall, and he scrapes them across the canvas as he adds layers and layers of paint to create these almost hallucinogenic like scapes. And then my favorite artist of the contemporary era, who I think is a master of language, process, and narrative, is Njeka Crosby. She was the 2017 MacArthur Genius Grant Award winner, and she uses a homogenization of unlike pre-discovered processes. So she uses Xerox transfers, which have already been discovered and used by Rauschenberg and Warhol, and she also uses collage with fabrics and textiles and things of the sort, which has already been done before. And then she also uses traditional painting techniques, which has, of course, been done for ages. But when she combines them together on a singular canvas, it creates a new language, and it creates a new visual narrative besides just the narrative taking place on the canvas. And it's something that I really aspire for within my own work. And one thing that Njeka Crosby is really the master of is she has such a strong narrative to tell with her journey from Nigeria to America, but it's not that narrative that makes it compelling, it's the amazing art that she produces that then makes the narrative compelling, and it draws the viewer in. And so how do I apply this to my personal work? My personal work, it starts with the materials. And the materials, I like to use utilitarian materials like concrete, epoxy resin, MDF drywall, insulation, basically anything I can get my hands on at like a construction site. And I like to play with this idea of what happens when you strip a utilitarian material from its intention use. Does it lose value as it becomes an intellectual property, or does it gain value, or does it make, is there no change? And so through this process, I've kind of developed this narrative within myself that my family has always been utilitarians. They've always been salesmen. My brother lays concrete for a living. And I think I've really begun to identify with these materials because when you think about it, art is basically a useless pursuit. Humanity has no need for it, no need to survive. So I kind of use these materials and determine my own value from them. And I use these superfluous and like garish colors because I believe that I'm trying to create a gap between philistinism and intellectualism. And philistinism is basically you don't believe in the power of like intellectual pursuits. And so I like to use these dopamine receptors that go off in your brain when you see really bright colors. And then as you approach the work, you get these narratives that come out. And mea culpa is something that I've always put in my work, and it's a Latin phrase, and it means repentance, and it means I'm sorry, I'll do better. And I think it's a phrase that's always stuck with me, and it's a recurring theme in my work. And this is just another piece of my work. This is concrete with epoxy resin layers, and then epoxy resin. I created the word girl, and it also stands for control. And it's just little personal narratives that I like to throw into my work. And this is just another piece, and then that's it. And I'm very proud to announce the next presenter. Hannah, come to the stage, please.